Hey guys, welcome to Cyber Platter. This is a tutorial on Microsoft Defender for Endpoint MDE and Microsoft Defender XDR. I have set it up in question and answers format, making it easier for you to learn as well as get ready for interviews. This is part 1 and there'll be a part 2 as well, which I will link it below in the description box. Before this, if you want to know about EDR or EDR related interview question and answers, there is another video which I will link it in the description box again. So let's start. The first question is, what's Microsoft Defender XDR and Microsoft 365 Defender Suite, and what do they do? What are the services they provide? Let's begin with Microsoft 365 Defender. This is a security package from Microsoft that protects different parts of your digital life. Like, for example, your email, your computer, your applications, and your online accounts. So this Microsoft 365 Defender provides integrated protection across various Microsoft 365 services. So it combines threat protection capabilities from Microsoft Defender for Office (MDO) and then Microsoft Defender for Endpoints, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, and Microsoft Defender for Identity. So Microsoft 365 Defender provides these services. Now, what is XDR? XDR stands for Extended Detection and Response. So this integrates and correlates data from multiple security tools. So it is getting data from many security tools, like, for example, all these security tools and other security sources across an organization's environment. XDR goes beyond the traditional endpoint detection and response, that is EDR, or network detection and response NDR capabilities. So before, all these security tools were isolated. Now XDR unifies them. Because of this, you can see patterns and also act on them faster. So you can respond more effectively to security incidents. You have more visibility and context to the security incidents, and because of that you can respond more effectively, and this minimizes the impact of breaches. Now, what is Microsoft Defender XDR? So this unifies endpoint, email, app, and identity security in one place. So the XDR solution automatically collects, correlates, and analyzes data, signal, threat, and alerts from all across your Microsoft 365 environment, including these, that is endpoint, email, app, and identities. It can automatically stop attacks and remediate affected assets. So this is a cloud-based solution. This is required pre-breach, that is before breach, as well as post-breach. So what XDR does, it coordinates prevention, detection, investigation, and response across endpoints, identities, apps, email, collaborative applications, and all of their data. Let's look at an example. This is an example from Microsoft.com itself. This is an example of a phishing attack. Imagine that an employee in your organization gets a phishing email and it has a malicious attachment. And this user doesn't know it is malicious or it is a phishing email, so they go ahead and open the mail attachment. So there is a malware in this which gets installed, which in turn gets the user identity, and then the attacker uses that identity to move laterally to move to other devices, assets, and get more information, sensitive information. They start to exfiltrate. But now imagine that there is Defender Suite installed. Defender Suite in the sense all the services provided by Defender Suite, that is Defender for Office 365, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, and Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. First is that there is Exchange Online Protection. So Exchange Online Protection is part of MDO, that is Microsoft Defender for Office 365. So Exchange Online Protection can detect the phishing email, and once it detects the phishing email, it uses flow rules. These are also called as transport rules. These rules are used to make sure that the phishing email never even goes to the inbox of that employee. And then Microsoft Defender for Office uses something called as safe attachments, which will test these attachments and determine that it is harmful or not harmful. And if it is harmful, based on how you have set up your rules, either the user cannot do anything with that email attachment, or it never gets delivered to this inbox at all. And then there is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. This is for all the devices. So MDE detects device and network vulnerabilities, okay? And next there is Defender for Identity. This gets to know things like privilege escalation, or if there is any lateral movement that is happening. This gets to know any weakness related to user identity. And then there is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, MDCA. This usually notices anomalous behavior, like for example, impossible travel request. That means, suppose say I am in the US, I'm trying to log in, maybe within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, there is another login with my user ID from India. So that is an impossible travel. So it will alert the admin saying this is happening. You can also take actions automatically. It can also identify anomalous activities like unusual download, sharing sensitive files, mail forwarding activities. All this can be identified using Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So this is how all the services that are provided by Microsoft 365 Defender act when there is an attack. Now let's look at Microsoft Defender XDR architecture. So here you can see that the XDR gets the signals from all of the Defender components, and it combines all these signals to provide extended detection and response capabilities. So this includes combined incident queue. That means there is an incident, you will get all the alerts triggered from all of these Microsoft Defender services in that one incident. It combines all those alerts together and provides it in one incident. And then there is automated response to stop attacks. You don't have to wait for the admins or analysts to take actions. Automatically, this can be done. And then there is self-healing. Self-healing is the ability to automatically detect and remediate security issues without any human intervention. And self-healing is for compromised devices, user identities, and mailboxes. And there is also cross-product threat hunting and threat analytics. Now, there is Microsoft Defender for Office. So like we mentioned before, it is going to safeguard your organization against malicious threats posed by email messages, email links or URLs that are in the emails, and collaboration tools. And this shares those signals with XDR. And then Exchange Online Protection provides end-to-end protection for incoming emails and attachments. And the next one is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, MDI. Like you can see, this is getting the signals from Azure Active Directory as well as on-premise integration of ADFC, that is Active Directory Federated Services, and on-premise Active Directory Domain Services. So it uses these signals to protect your hybrid identity environment. This can protect against hackers that use compromised accounts to move laterally across workstations in the on-premise environments, okay? And then there is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. This is getting all the signals from all the devices. Then there is Microsoft Cloud App Security, that is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. This is getting all the signals from your organization's use of cloud applications, and it protects data flowing between your environment and these cloud applications. Using this, you can also sanction what cloud applications you might want your employees to use, also unsanctioned cloud applications that you think might pose any threats. Then there is Azure AD Identity Protection. This is Microsoft Entra ID Protection now. This evaluates all of those sign-in attempts that is happening. It identifies if there is any risk in those sign-in attempts, and based on this, any account access is allowed or prevented. You can set up something called as conditional access. We will talk about this in the later videos, but for now understand that there are something called as conditional access policies which can be configured to allow or prevent account access as per your organization's demand. So Azure AD Identity Protection, that is Microsoft Entra ID Protection, is licensed separately from Microsoft Defender XDR. Okay, all of these can come under XDR license, but Azure AD Identity Protection is different. It is included with Microsoft Entra ID P2, and all of these shared signal, right? That is from all the components of Microsoft Defender XDR can be integrated into Microsoft Sentinel. Microsoft Sentinel is the SIEM and source solution by Microsoft. But not only Microsoft Sentinel, you can send these signal data to other logging sources. And all of that data you can see in the Defender portal, that is security.microsoft.com. You can see the incidents, alerts, devices, emails, how to set those policies that we were talking about. This is related to all the email policies, MDO that is. So all of that you can see under security.microsoft.com, the Microsoft Defender portal. Next question, what is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, MDE? Give me an overview of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. It is an advanced threat protection solution. This was actually formerly called as Microsoft Defender Advanced Threat Protection, ATP. It was called this before, and knowing Microsoft, it's obviously changed its name. Now it is called MDE, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. It is actually designed to help organizations secure their endpoints. These endpoints can be laptops, desktops, phones, mobile devices, tablets, PCs, access points, routers, firewalls, and so on. So you can get MDE in two plans, that is Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Defender for Endpoint Plan 2. Like you can see in the screenshot, this is from Microsoft.com. P1 includes centralized management, next generation anti-malware, attack surface reduction, device control, endpoint firewall, network protection, web control, device-based conditional access, controlled folder access, APIs, SIM connectors, and application control. P2 is the bigger form, which includes P1 as well as these. That is, you get endpoint detection and response, automated investigation and remediation, vulnerability and threat management, threat intelligence, sandboxing, and access to Microsoft threat experts. So P1, P2 licensing is one way of getting Defender for endpoint. But for customers who already have Microsoft 365 E3 or A3 license, then P1 is included in this. And for customers with E5 license, P2 is included in E5. So going back to the capabilities of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, it can help you prevent, detect, investigate, and respond to advanced threats. So MDE uses endpoint behavioral sensors. So these sensors are actually built in Windows 10. So these sensors collect and process behavioral signals from the operating system. And then these sensors send these signals or behavioral data to MDE. When I say MDE, this is your private isolated cloud instance of MDE that is given to you. Once this is done, it uses cloud security analytics. So here it uses big data, device learning, unique Microsoft optics, enterprise cloud products, and online assets. Here, what happens? The behavioral signals are translated into insights, detections, and recommended responses to advanced threats. It also uses threat intelligence. This is by Microsoft hunters, security teams, and threat intelligence provided by their partners as well. So, threat intelligence lets MDE to identify attacker tools, techniques, and procedures. Once these are found in the sensor data that was collected previously, alerts are generated. Now let's look at MDE core capabilities. First one is vulnerability management. Like I mentioned before, this is included in the P2 plan. MDE provides a risk-based vulnerability management. This helps you in discovery, assessment, prioritization, and remediation of endpoint vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. So, vulnerability management reduces cybersecurity risk with continuous asset discovery and monitoring, and then risk based, intelligent prioritization and remediation and tracking. So, Defender Vulnerability Management has built in and agentless scanners for continuous monitoring and detection of risk in your organization. Even when the devices are not connected to your corporate network, it uses something called as device discovery to do this. This is used for identifying unmanaged devices using the devices that have MDE on them. Once it is identified, you can onboard it to MDE, and then there will be a vulnerabilities, there will be an assessment done to find out the vulnerabilities. Then it uses Microsoft's threat intelligence, breach likelihood predictions, business context, and device assessments to prioritize the critical vulnerabilities. And it has built-in workflows for seamless remediation and tracking. So that is about vulnerability management capability of MDE. Another capability is attack surface reduction. So this is nothing but minimizing potential paths through which attackers can exploit vulnerabilities on endpoints. So this includes hardware-based isolation. Let me erase this. Application control. That is, you can control what applications are allowed to run on endpoints. And this will reduce the risk of executing malicious or unauthorized software. Then it includes exploit protection, network protection. Network protection can include blocking connections to malicious domains and IP addresses. And then there is controlled folder access. That is, you can restrict access to sensitive files and folders. And then there is device control, then web protection. So you can block malicious sites. You can also block unverified file download here. And then there is ransomware protection. So these are included under attack surface reduction. The next capability is next generation protection. This includes Microsoft Defender antivirus. This uses behavior-based heuristic and real-time antivirus protection, cloud-delivered protection, that is near instant detection and blocking of new and emerging threats, and it also includes dedicated protection and product updates, that is keeping the antivirus up to date. Next capability is endpoint detection and response of MDE. These are there to detect, investigate, and respond to advanced threats. This also includes the advanced hunting feature. This is query based threat hunting. This gives you an opportunity to proactively find breaches and create custom detections. Next capability of MDE is automated investigation and remediation. So, MDE not only quickly responds to advanced attacks but also offers automated investigation and remediation capabilities. This helps you to reduce the volume of alerts. The next feature of MDE is Microsoft Secure Scores for devices. So, this is a score for your devices. If the device's score is higher, then it means that they are more resilient to cyber threats. This actually shows you the collective security configuration state of your devices across many categories like application, operating system, network, accounts, and security controls. The next capability of MDE is Microsoft Threat Experts. This is a threat hunting service. It provides proactive hunting, prioritization, and additional context and insights to the security analysts. This is in order to identify and respond to threats accurately and quickly. You can apply for this service to get targeted attack notifications and to work with experts on demand. So, experts on demand is again an add on service. Okay, so these are some of the capabilities of MDE. Along with this, it also provides integration with other Microsoft solutions, like, for example, MDCA, that is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, and then MDC, that is Microsoft Defender for Cloud, and then Microsoft Sentinel, Intune, Microsoft Defender for Identity, MDI, Microsoft Defender for Office, MDO, and Skype for Business. And all of these features you can see it on the Defender portal, security.microsoft.com. The next question is, how do you onboard a device into Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? The first thing that you need to do is log in into security.microsoft.com, that is the security portal. Once you log in, you're going to land on this home page and then you scroll down to almost to the bottom to find settings. In settings, go to endpoints. This takes a minute to load and then you scroll down to device management and then there is onboarding. Microsoft provides a lot of options for onboarding. So you can choose the operating system as well as your deployment method. I would say that Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is great for Windows machines, but not so great for Linux. With Linux, you need to be a little bit flexible because it doesn't have a lot of options. Today, we will see how to deploy with a local script. So if you click on this, you have many other options: group policy, configuration manager, Microsoft Intune or Microsoft device management, and VDI onboarding scripts. For now, it is local script. Select local script. Local script is very easy when you want to test it for the first time or if you have limited number of devices. But if there are more devices, you might want to go to other options. So I will select local script for deployment method and then I'm going to select the Windows operating system as Windows 10 or 11. My machine is Windows 10, so I'm going to stick with this. But there are other options. Like you can see, you can deploy it on Mac OS as well, Linux server, iOS, Android, and even in Windows, there are other options, Windows laptops as well as servers. So once you select Windows 10 and 11, local script, then you download onboarding package. So you click on this, the package is downloaded. Let me go to my folder location. So I made a different folder under downloads and I put it here. So you will get a zip file. You will have to unzip it. So right click on it, click on extract all. It will ask you to select the destination folder. Say I'm going to leave it as default and say extract. So now this file is extracted. All you have to do is to run this. Right click on this and run as administrator. You will have to run the script as an administrator. Yeah. So I'm going to click on this. So it's running. My Defender Smart Screen is preventing this, but I'm going to run anyway. You might not even get this message. So click on run anyway. So it asked me for my admin password. I entered it, my local admin password. So I am doing it on my test machine itself. If you are doing it on, obviously you will have to send it to some other client. So you can package it and send it to somebody else. So it is asking me to say yes or no. And here it says the machine might take 5 to 13 minutes to onboard. So I'm going to say yes to this. I'm going to type in Y and click enter. So it started. So it's starting Microsoft Defender for endpoint onboarding process, then testing admin privileges. Script is running with sufficient privileges. So it finally says successfully onboarded machine to Microsoft Defender for endpoint. It took less than 1 minute actually. So it tells me press any key to continue. I'm going to click enter. Now it's done. So for you to confirm if all went right, if you go back to the portal, it also gives you a detection test. That means you need to open a command prompt on the client and then run this below command. Remember, when you run this, the command prompt window will close automatically. Okay, so you don't have to worry why that happened. I've copied this. I'm going to go to my command prompt, right click, run as administrator, and then copy the entire thing here and click enter. And that's it, it's gone. The window automatically closes and it did close. So what does the script do? It will create an alert for you. So now if I go to devices, so I'm going to devices, let it load. So the device is not yet reflecting here. So we'll wait for a few more minutes. Let's go and see what happened in incident alerts. So if you go to alerts, so these two are generated because we ran that script. If you go into this alert, so this is the alert that it created, suspicious PowerShell command line executed. So once you run that, it will create a test alert just to let you know that everything is onboarded well. It tells you what it is, alert details, category, detection source, detection technology, what time it was executed. And then if you go to recommendations, it also tells you what needs to be done. So this is the alert page. When I click on the device, it tells me that the device properties are not available because this device doesn't meet the required OS version, or because this device has been recently onboarded. Yes, it is recently onboarded, so we'll wait for some time. So now in the device inventory, I can see the device that is onboarded. It took around 20 minutes for me to see this here, but the alert was very immediate. I received the alert, but the device was not showing up under the device inventory. That is under assets, devices. If you click, I can see the device now. Let me click on the device so I can see the related information here. If I go back to incidents and alerts and click on the alerts here, scroll down to go to devices, click on the device, open device page. So this is how you onboard a device into MDE using a local script. The next question is how to onboard devices to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint MDE through Intune. For that, first go to security.microsoft.com, scroll down completely to the bottom where you can see settings, go to settings, and then in settings, select endpoints. Once you go to endpoints, scroll down to go to device management in that onboarding. So in onboarding, we have various options to select operating systems as well as the deployment method. Now, if you have in your organization's devices enrolled in Intune, then it is the easiest way and the recommended way to push Microsoft Defender for endpoints. You can download onboarding package or you can auto deploy them. Let me show you how. Now go to the Intune portal. Once you go to the Intune admin center, go to endpoint security. In that, scroll down to go to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. Here you can see that the connection status is unavailable. So it clearly says some toggles are disabled and acting as off because Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is not actively communicating with Intune for this account. Okay, so we'll have to establish this connection. So go back to the Defender portal In this, again in settings, endpoints, scroll up the first one where it says advanced features, go to that. It takes a minute to load. And then if you scroll down, there should be one of these toggle buttons for Intune. Yeah, here. So Microsoft Intune connection, it is right now off. You'll have to turn it on. This connects to Microsoft Intune to enable sharing of device information and enhanced policy enforcement. So let me go, turn it on, and then save preferences. So you get this message saying preferences saved. Your changes will apply in a few minutes. Let's go back to the Intune admin portal and see if it is reflecting. Let me refresh it. Yeah, now you can see that connected data refreshed. So now the connection status changed to available. Okay, now we'll have to set one more setting. So if you scroll down here, you have this connect Windows devices version so and so. Don't worry about this. And about to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. I'm gonna turn this on and then turn this on and then hit save. Once you save this, if you scroll up, the connection status changed from available to enabled. Once this connection is enabled, the next step is to actually onboard the devices. To do that, we create a policy. So in the main menu, scroll down to endpoint detection and response. Here you see Defender for Endpoint connector enabled. If you scroll down, there is create policy. Click on that create policy, then you get option to select the platform. So in this platform, I'm going to select Windows 10, Windows 11. So for Windows Server as well, there is MDE option, but it just requires a different license. For now, we'll select this. And then in this profile, it has endpoint detection and response. I'm going to select that and hit create. So the name I will give it as test onboard MDE policy, and you can give a good description so that the other admins in your organization also understand what is going on. Then you can hit next. In the configuration setting, you have this Microsoft Defender for Endpoint setting. Click this arrow and then you can see the options here. In this, there is Microsoft Defender for Endpoint client configuration package type. In this, I'm going to select auto from connector. That means the onboarding package from your Defender for Endpoint deployment will be used directly. So I'm going to click that. The next option is sample sharing. I'm going to leave this as not configured. So sample sharing is nothing but you're setting or returning the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint sample sharing configuration parameter so that they can share sample data. I'm going to set this as not configured. And the next option, telemetry reporting frequency, it says it is deprecated. So this is recommended for high risk devices, and you enable this setting so it reports telemetry to the MDE service more frequently. For now, I'm going to leave this as not configured, and then I'm going to hit next. Scope tag is for selecting tags here. This is optional, but you can follow whatever tag standard that is established in your organization. I'm going to leave this blank for now. Go to next. The next one is the assignments page. Here you select the groups that will receive this profile. Okay. So when you deploy this policy to user groups, a user must first sign in on that device before the policy gets applied, and the device can onboard to Defender for Endpoint. Here I would recommend that you go with first test devices, or a small set of devices so that you test this on a few machines and then push it out to all of them in the organization. Once you assign the group, you hit next. Once you create that, come back to endpoint detection and response. You can see that the policy is created, test onboard MDE policy. Okay. I have not assigned any groups here, but this is how it appears once you have created it. But for you, the group name will be here, okay? Once you're done with this, on the main menu, go to device compliance and then go to policies and then hit create policy. And then you get this option to select your choice for platform. I'm going to select Windows 10 and later, and profile type is Windows 10 or 11 compliance policy, and then hit on create. So here in basics, you give the name. I'm going to say test MDE compliance policy and then give the same description, hit next, and then go to compliance settings. Here I'm going to select Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. So the option here is require the device to be at or under the machine risk score. So you have these options: clear, low, medium, and high. So what it does, if you hover over this icon, it tells you that devices which exceed this score get marked as non-compliant. So I'm gonna set this as medium and then hit next. The next tab is to take actions for non-compliance. That is, the devices that are marked as non-compliant, what action do you want to take on them? So here you have two options: send email to the end user and add device to retire list. So here you can send an email to the end user. You can select that, and you can select the message template as well here if you want to. You can create a new notification. So I don't have any notifications message templates created here, but it gives you where to go and create one. I don't need this as of now. And you can add additional recipients as well here. You can even add your IT group, endpoint management team. It depends on you. There's a lot of flexibility. And there is also add device to retire list. That means when you do this, the device is added to a list of retired non-compliant devices in the Intune Admin Center. It's only added to that list, but it is not retired until an administrator explicitly initiates the retirement process. Okay. So when an administrator explicitly retires the device from the list, then the retirement will remove all company data of the device and removes that device from the Intune management. So for now, I'm gonna delete this and go next. I'm not setting any action as of now. Here you can select the group that you configured earlier, or for me, I'm gonna say add all users, and you have this option to exclude groups as well. If you're testing, I would say you add only the test group here. But when you're doing it for the entire organization and there are some devices that you want to exclude, then you can come back here and exclude it. Add the groups here, okay? Then I'm gonna hit next. So this is going to give me the summary of what we just created. Then I'm gonna hit create. Now it is completely created. It actually takes some time to show the compliant, onboard devices, all the status here. So once everything is properly connected, you can see the report like this. So if you go to home and endpoint security, again the same thing, and then to endpoint detection and response, it is gonna tell you how many devices are onboarded, how many are not onboarded. And then if you go to EDR onboarding status, you can also filter them by saying, onboarding status, defender, sensor state. So once you're done with the compliance policy and everything, you can also create conditional access policy for this. So in the same menu, main menu, if you scroll down in Intune, you have conditional access. Click on conditional access, and then you can start creating a new policy for this. So something like this. This is an example that I'm giving you, sample policy. You can select the users or target resources. So in the grant section, if you go here, you can see either you can block access to those devices or you can grant access to them. So you're granting access, but you're saying require device to be marked as compliant. And you can choose multiple things here. You can also say, multi-factor authentication should be there or require any other strong authentication method. So if you're selecting require device to be marked as compliant, it also gives you a message saying don't lock yourself out. Make sure that your device is compliant. Okay. Or it also says require password change, app protection policy, approved client app, require Hydra, Microsoft Entra join device. So you can select multiple of these or just one, and then you can say to get access, you can comply with one of these options or all of these selected controls. So here they're going with require all the selected controls. So this is how you can create a conditional access policy as well. So that's how you onboard devices
to MDE through Intune.
The next question is,
what is device discovery? So if you go to the Defender portal, that is security.microsoft.com, and then scroll down completely to the settings tab, you will find this device discovery tab. Before it was under endpoints, now they have made a different section for it. So click on device discovery. This device discovery capability is provided by MDE to help you identify unmanaged devices connected to your corporate network. This doesn't need any extra appliances or process changes. So what happens? Device discovery will use onboarded endpoints. So there are many endpoints that you have with MDE. These devices will discover the other unmanaged devices for you. So these onboarded endpoints in your network will collect, probe, or scan your network to discover unmanaged devices. So it's not just like laptops and servers it identifies, it also identifies mobile devices, network devices like routers, switches, firewalls, IoT devices like printers and cameras. So once you identify these unmanaged devices, you can onboard them to MDE, not the network devices, of course. But you can get more information on those devices, like what is installed on them, what are the vulnerabilities, what are the CVE numbers attached to those, like routers or switches. So in device discovery, if you see, there are two modes. One is the basic one, the other one is the standard discovery. Basic one is the passive way of collecting events in your network, and they extract device information from them passively. Here there is no network traffic initiated, and it uses sense_ndr.exe binary to collect passive network data. So endpoints extract data here from all network traffic seen by an onboarded device, okay? But this gives you limited visibility of unmanaged endpoints in your network. It doesn't give you all the details. But the standard discovery, the other one, which is the recommended discovery mode, gives you more information. This actively finds devices in your network and gives more data about them, like maybe host name, OS version, which will not be available in the basic scanning. So some of the protocols that are used for probing and active probing, that is standard discovery, are ARP, FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, ICMP, RDP, SMTP, SNMP, SSH, Telnet, and so many others. I will link them in the description box. Here it is also giving me an option to enable log4j2 detection. So it will detect devices with applications using the vulnerability log4j2, and it is done through unauthenticated probing. So onboarded devices running on Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server 2019, or Windows Server 2022 are used for performing this discovery, okay? And then it also gives you an option to select which devices to use for standard discovery. Do you want to use all the devices, or do you want to use only a few of them? If you select all devices, which is the recommended one, then it will enable standard discovery for all the supported devices, like I mentioned, Windows 10, 11, Windows Server 2019, Windows Server 2022. Or you can select tags, which will enable device discovery on only these devices or device groups based on selected tags. Only these devices will perform the standard discovery. In basic, it is all the devices doing it. In standard, you have your choice. And then you can hit save to save your changes. So when you turn on active probing, that is standard discovery, devices will be actively probed when there are any changes in device characteristics, just to make sure that the existing information is up to date. So Microsoft says typically devices are probed no more than once in a 3-week period. And also active probing, that is standard discovery, can generate up to 50 KB of traffic between the onboarded device and the probe device. That is for every probing attempt. So if you don't want both of these, basic or standard discovery, you can just go to, again, back to the menu, go to settings, go to endpoints, go to advanced features, the first option. Let me minimize this. So you see this, if you scroll down, in advanced features, you see device discovery. You can disable this as well if you don't want to do it. Now let's go back to device discovery. So again, you're going back to settings, under settings, device discovery. Next, let's go to exclusions. In exclusions, like you can see, it says that the IPs that you add here or the subnets will be excluded from being proactively discovered. So you can add exclusions here and say the subnet or IP address, usually maybe honeypots, honeynuts, you can add it here and give a description so that the other admins understand what you're doing. Let me close this. And then once device discovery is switched on, you can go to monitor networks to see what is happening here. This will give you the list of up to 50 networks that are identified as corporate networks. So in my network, there is only one network name and onboarded devices. Two of these are here, but let me show you an example where there are many networks that are identified. So if you see this here, there are many networks that have been identified. You may ask what happens, if you're working from home, will the home devices be discovered as well? Or when you go to working from cafeteria, will public access point be discovered as a network here? That is very unlikely because the discovery engine that is used for device discovery knows how to distinguish between network events that are received in the corporate network versus outside of the corporate network. So it gets to know that, this network is private and this is corporate. For example, if most of the devices in the organization report that they are connected to the same network name with the same default gateway and DHCP server address, it can be concluded that this network is likely a corporate network. That's how the discovery engine gets to know. Even if it has identified something by mistake as corporate, you can click on this and choose ignore this network from monitoring. It will give you a confirmation page. By choosing to not monitor this network, devices will not be discovered. Okay, and I click confirm. The changes are applied. If there is a network that you want to monitor and it is ignored, you can also choose monitor this network. Just click on these three dots and choose what you want to do. And then there is something called as authenticated scans. This is for identifying network devices. So what is the concept behind this? So you use a designated Microsoft Defender for Endpoint device to perform periodic authenticated scans of pre-configured network devices. So you use one MDE device in each network segment to perform periodic scans to identify network devices. So you can identify switches, routers, firewalls, VPN gateways, and WLAN controllers. So these network devices are not managed as standard endpoints like laptops or servers because MDE doesn't have a sensor built into the network devices themselves. So these types of devices will require an agentless approach where a remote scan obtains the necessary information from the devices. So here you have two types of devices. One is a scanning device and one is a network device. Scanning device is the device that's already onboarded to MDE that you use to scan the network devices. Network devices are the devices that you plan to scan and onboard. There are a few steps before you start this authenticated scanning. So first you'll have to decide what onboarded devices or device that has a network connection. It has to have this network connection to the management port, right? For the network devices you plan on scanning. So that needs to be done first. Then the SNMP traffic between the Defender for Endpoint scanning device where you have the scanner installed and the targeted network devices must be allowed. Targeted network devices may be like I said, firewall routers should be allowed. You also need to decide which network devices are assessed for vulnerabilities, and then you need to make sure SNMP read-only is enabled on all configured network devices. This is to allow the Defender for Endpoint scanning device to query the configured network devices. So you only need SNMP read-only, SNMP write is not required. And then you need the IP addresses of the network devices to be scanned. or the subnets. Then you need SNMP credentials of the network devices. And then for the scanner to be authenticated and work properly, you need to add the following domains or URL. I will link all of them in the description box. Once all of that is done, you can download the scanner from here. Click on download scanner and it will start downloading it. Once this is downloaded, you can get this on the device that you want to act as a scanner and install it. You just have to run this, that's all. Run this as an administrator. It might even ask you to provide your credentials. Once that is done, you can go to authenticated scans, add new scan to create authenticated scan definition. This is a new network device authenticated scan that you are setting up. First, it is asking you to select the authenticated scan type. You can select network device authenticated scan. This runs scans on unmanaged network devices. You also have Windows authenticated scan. You don't need this. You select network device authenticated scan and then click on next. Next, let me provide a test network scan MDE as a name. Then you have to select the scanning device. Which scanning device that you have installed this scanner on will do that. So you need to select that and then you provide what targets will it scan, IP addresses or subnets. So there is an option even to import an Excel sheet with all the details, and it also tells you when do you want to scan it, hourly, daily, every 4 hours, 12 hours. And then there is authentication method. You can choose from these following. I'm choosing community string and give the string value here. Fill SNMP community string value here. Okay. You can also use Azure Key Vault for providing credentials. If you manage your credentials in Azure Key Vault, then you can enter the Azure Key Vault URL and Azure Key Vault secret name to be accessed by the scanning device. So if you click on this, it will give you Azure Key Vault URL and Azure Key Vault secret name. So this is how you set up a new scan in authenticated scans. Let me cancel this. Once all this is done, if you go to assets, under that devices, it takes a minute to load. So you can filter here, scroll down. You can go here and select from onboarding status that can be onboarded. It is not onboarded, but these devices can be onboarded. You can select that, filter, and then say apply. Then you will get the list. I don't have a lot of devices, so I'm not getting the list. Let me show you an example. So if you look at this, see there are so many devices and you can select that can be onboarded. Once you get that list, you can click on that device. See, this is an unmanaged device, which can be, if you see this onboarding status, it says this can be onboarded. Okay, and if you go to security recommendations of that device, you can also see onboard devices to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. You can click on that and then you will get the recommendation what needs to be done, and you can onboard this device. You can also do this from another place. So in the main menu, if you scroll down to vulnerability management and then go to recommendations and search for onboard devices, you should get this option. You will get onboard devices to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and then you see it has an overview of it, remediation options, and exposed devices. It says in this example that 21 devices are not managed that can be onboarded, and you can apply the recommendation to all of these. So if you click on exposed devices, it will give you the list of devices that they are there, and then you can request for remediation. So this request remediation tab is to connect the security team with the IT administrators. Like for example, onboarding this device might not be your job, but identifying and giving that information to the IT admins is your job. That is the security admin's job. So you can create a request from here which will reflect in Intune for the IT administrators. Request remediation is a link between the security team and the IT admin team, and these tickets will be created in Intune.
The next question is,
live response. What is live response? Why is it required? And how to use it? So live response is a great tool for security operations team. It enables them to connect to the device remotely in real time. It gives them the power to do in-depth investigation on any of the devices and take immediate response actions. So with live response, the analyst can do a lot of tasks, like for example, running basic and advanced commands on the remote device, and then downloading files, like for example, malware samples or output of some PowerShell script. And then you can also download files in the background. This is a new feature of Microsoft Defender. Then you can also upload a PowerShell script or executable to the library and then run it on the device. Next, it also allows the analyst to take any remediation actions or undo any remediation actions on the device. So let's see how this actually works. Let me go back to the Defender portal, that is security.microsoft.com. In the main menu, let me go to assets and then devices and go to one of the devices here. So I'll go to the first one, this device. Let me close this main menu. So on the device page, there are 3 dots which says more actions. If I click on it, there is an option to initiate live response session. So I'm going to click on it. And I got this message saying failed to create a live response session because live response tenant setting is disabled. So before you can use this capability, you will have to enable live response. So let me do that. Let me click OK and then go back to the main menu. And if I scroll down, there is settings. Let me close the main menu. In settings, I'm going to go to endpoints. In endpoints, general, advanced features. If I scroll down, I think it's almost at the bottom. Yeah, here it is. You see live response. You'll have to switch this on. This allows users with appropriate RBAC permissions to investigate devices that they are authorized to access using a remote shell connection. So if I turn this on, then I can connect to the device and my live response will work. I'm going to turn this on and say if the preferences. So I get this message saying your changes will apply in a few minutes. Okay, then with live response, there are 2 more options. If you're using Microsoft Defender for servers, then you can switch this on as well, live response for servers. Right now, I'm using it for Windows 11, so I'm not going to turn that on. This is for Windows Server or Linux devices, okay? And then there is another option as well, which says live response unsigned script execution. So if you don't turn this feature, which says live response unsigned script execution, you can only execute the scripts that are signed. That is, the scripts that have been digitally signed with a cryptographic signature. For now, I'm going to turn this on as well and then save preferences. Again, I get the message saying your changes will apply in a few minutes. So live response unsigned script execution and live response toggle buttons, I've switched them on in advanced features. Now let me go back to my device under assets. Go to the device, click on the same 3 dots. I'm going to click on initiate live response session and see my session started. Let me minimize this main menu. See, my session has started and it says connect, that is session established. So if I click on view details, from here I can navigate to the device page, but I'm going to close this for now. And then it gives me the session information. It has a session ID and it tells me who created this session. When was this session started? Session ended is not applicable because it is still going on, and the duration for how long it is open. And then again, if I scroll down, it has device information. It gives you all the information about the device. It's a Windows 11 machine, health state is active, and all the other details. So I'm going to close this as well. So let's run some commands and see how it actually works. I'm going to maximize this. So I told you before that with live response, you can run basic commands as well as advanced commands. So your basic commands includes things like starting a live response session, performing read-only live response commands, that is excluding file copy and execution, and then downloading a file from the remote device using live response. The other type of commands are advanced commands. So with advanced commands, you can download PE and non-PE files from the file page. So PE stands for portable executable. This is a file format for executables, that is .exe, and dynamic link library, that is .dll in Windows. So with advanced commands, you can download PE and non-PE files from the file page, and then you can upload a file to the remote device. You can also view a script from the files library, and not only view but also execute a script on the remote device from the files library using advanced commands. Now let's go back to the Defender portal. Let's see some of the common basic commands. So the first command is cd. This changes the current directory. So suppose say I say cd users. Now I changed my directory from C to C users, okay? And if I want to see all the active connections, I can just say connections. And then now you can see all the connections that are on my machine, the remote one that I've connected to. And you can use CLS to clear everything on the console screen. You can also use clear. CD space ... is to go back one level in the folders. And then if I say dir, it shows a list of all the files and subdirectories in that directory. So you can see this is the path directory, read only, created, when was it created, when was it modified, size. So you get all the details with dir. And then if I use drivers, it's going to show me all the drivers installed on the device. So you can see all the drivers like this. And then to get file info on a file, you can say file info and that file name. I'm just using a blank file. So when I do it for an empty file, it says the file is empty. This command is not supported on an empty file. Let me change that and then rerun it. Now, this was the file that I did before. There was no testing word inside it. It was completely empty and it didn't run file info command on that. I just added this and now I'm getting information regarding this file. It gives me the path, when was it modified, when was it created, digital signature, file description, internal file name, product name, company name, version information. You see the type is text and the hash value as well. Next one is jobs. If I run jobs, it will show me the currently running jobs with their ID and status. And if you want to place any specified job in the foreground, you can use FG and that command ID that you get from the jobs command. Okay, from here there are no jobs running for me, that's why it is not giving anything. But if there are any, you can say FG and that command ID, and then the specified job will be placed in the foreground, making it the current job. And then you can also use find file. This is to locate files. Let me give the same name, test.txt. Let's see if it finds this. See, it found this file and it is telling me the path. And then if I want to download this file, I can say get file and the file path. See, it downloaded the file on my local machine. So if you don't know any command, you can start with help. It will give you the list of the commands that you can use, okay? And then there is persistence. It shows all known persistent methods on the device. So if I scroll up, this is what the output is. So persistent methods are the techniques and methods used by attackers to maintain continuous access to a compromised system or network. So it's going to give all those details here, what could have been used. Then there is another command called processes. It will show you all processes running on the device. So these are the processes that are running. Then there is scheduled tasks. This will show all the scheduled tasks on the device like this. You can also see all the services running on the device using the command services. Then if you want to see all known files and startup folder, you can use startup folders, and that will give you the files and startup folder on the device. There is also this trace command which will enable debug mode. So these are some of the basic commands. Let's look at some of the advanced commands now. Like for example, library. This gives you the list of files that were uploaded to the live response library. So you can upload files to the device. Let me minimize this. So if I click on these three buttons, if I say upload file to library, I can use this to upload the files like it says. Let me go back to the command line. Then you can use the command isolate. That means it will disconnect the device from the network while retaining the connectivity to the device. That means the device will be disconnected from the network, but it will still be connected to Defender for endpoints. I don't want to isolate my device, so I'm not going to enter this. And to release the device that is isolated, you can say release. And if you want to run any PowerShell script, you can say run and the script name. And if you want to run a scan, you can say scan. So these are some of the advanced commands. So now let me close this. So if I want to disconnect from this session, all I have to do is click these three buttons, more actions, and say disconnect session, and then confirm that you want to disconnect it. See, you get a pop-up saying the session has been disconnected. So if I go to the command log, it actually tells me what logs were run. If I go to one of these, it tells me when it was started, when it completed, what was the command, list files in startup folders. This is what I entered. And then what was the output as well. It gives me the output too. So you can go back and check here if you've missed something. So with live sessions, you are limited to use only 25 live response sessions at a time, and the inactive timeout value is 30 minutes. So one device can only be in one session at a time. So if I go back to the command line, so if you want to analyze a file, like for example, you think that's a malware file, you can say analyze file and the file name. It says it couldn't recognize the command. Let me try with quotes. Yeah, it is working now. I think because of the space there. So there was a space here and I didn't realize what to do. So it says the status is clean. This is the file hash. Anything suspicious infected was found. So it gives you the details about it. It analyzes and gives you the detail. You can use this for analyzing the processes as well with the PID. So if you do processes, you get the processes, and then if you do analyze process and the process ID, it will analyze the process as well. So to upload file from library, you can also use the command put file. And if you want to remediate anything, you can say remediate and then the file name. Like for example, I'm gonna say remediate file and the file name. So if you see, it says it has been quarantined. So if I go to this location that is here, see this, in this folder, that file is no more there. It has been remediated, that is quarantined. And if I want to restore that file, suppose I did this, like, I took some remediation action, but I want to undo this, then I'm going to say exactly the same. Instead of remediate, I'll have to say undo. So undo file and the file name. If I do that, see the file was restored from quarantine and you can see the file that is back here.
The next question is, what are the advanced features in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Microsoft Defender XDR?
So if you log into the Defender portal, that is security.microsoft.com, and in the main menu, scroll down to almost to the bottom, you get settings. Go to settings and then select endpoints. Here you can see advanced features. Let me minimize this menu. So in these advanced features, there are many features that you can enable. These are just toggle buttons, and we will talk about all of these today. So if I scroll up, the first one is restrict correlation to within scoped device groups. Device groups are mainly used to streamline security operations, okay? So with these device groups, you can organize your devices based on many attributes, like for example, domains, computer names, or the tags that you give to your devices. And just so you know that device groups are available under settings in the same endpoints. If you go to device groups, you can create your device group here, okay? Add device group and then you can do this. I'm going to cancel this for now. and go back to advanced features. So this is telling you that it will restrict correlation to within scoped device groups if you turn this on. So let's say that your organization has multiple departments, and these multiple departments have their own security operations center, that is SOC. SOC's responsibility is to monitor and respond to security alerts. So there is one organization but many departments, and each department is handled by a separate security operations team. In this scenario, you can use restrict correlation to within scoped device groups. You can turn it on because this setting will allow each local SOC team to limit alert correlations only to the device groups that they have access to. So say there is an incident involving many alerts from many different devices across different groups in the organization. If you turn this setting on, then it ensures that each local SOC can focus only on the alerts within their scope. This will also allow them to take appropriate actions based on their access to the devices involved. If you turn the setting on, suppose say there is a global SOC team which has access to all the device groups, then that SOC team will see multiple separate incidents categorized by device groups instead of just one consolidated incident. And this could potentially lead to increased workload and complexities if you have only one SOC team. Okay, let's go to the next setting. The next setting is to enable EDR in block mode. So this recommendation is mainly for devices that are utilizing non-Microsoft antivirus solution. So you have a non-Microsoft antivirus solution as your primary antivirus, and then there is Microsoft Defender antivirus that is operating in passive mode. So enabling EDR in block mode provides additional protection against malicious artifacts. So what exactly is EDR in block mode? This is a feature that enhances security by actively blocking malicious artifacts, especially when Microsoft Defender antivirus is not the primary antivirus product and is running passively. So there is your antivirus which will attempt to identify malicious activity first. If it is missed by the antivirus, then it goes to the EDR detection. And if it is missed by the EDR detection as well, EDR in block mode takes action. EDR in block mode operates in the background. It is for remediating malicious artifacts detected by EDR capabilities. So it ensures that the potential threats that are overlooked by the primary antivirus solution are addressed by this. Something to also note is that EDR in block mode has limitations when Microsoft Defender antivirus is in passive mode. Some functionalities like real-time protection and certain security features like network protection and attack surface reduction rules are only available when Microsoft Defender antivirus is actively running. So you can turn this button on to enable EDR in block mode. So once you go ahead and enable this, and then say there is a malicious artifact that is detected and remediated by this, then what happens? Your SOC team will see these detections as blocked or prevented in the Action Center. So where is Action Center? If you go back to the main menu and go to Actions and Submissions, click on Action Center. Here you will get that detection saying it is blocked or prevented. Let's go to the next advanced setting. I'm going back to settings, then endpoints, advanced features. Let me minimize this again. Next one is automatically resolve alerts. If the automated investigations or analysis says that there is no threats found or remediated, then such alerts will be resolved automatically if you turn this on. By the way, this is a default on for tenants created on or after Windows 10. And if you don't want to have alerts auto-resolved, then you'll have to manually turn off this feature. Something you need to remember is that this auto-resolve action can impact the device risk level calculation. So device risk level calculation is based on the active alerts detected on a device. And also, if an analyst manually sets an alert status to in progress or resolved, the auto resolve capability will not override it. The next feature is allow or block file. For this, there are two prerequisites. requirements. First one is that Microsoft Defender antivirus should be the active anti-malware solution. And second, that the cloud-based protection feature should be enabled. What is this cloud-based protection? So go to your start button, search for virus and threat protection, open that. Here go to manage settings, and then you can see that there is an option called cloud delivered protection. This should be on for allow or block file to work. So if you can see here, it says that if cloud delivered protection is on, it provides increased and faster protection with access to the latest protection data in the cloud. So these two features should be on for allow or block file to work. This setting allows you to block potentially malicious files within your network, that is preventing them from being accessed, that is read, written or executed on devices within your organization. Once you enable this allow or block file, you can block files through the add indicator tab on a file's profile page, or in the same settings endpoints, if you scroll down under rules indicators, you can add files hash value to block it. Let's go back to advanced features. The next one is hide potential duplicate device records. If you enable this feature, it makes sure that you access the most precise device information by hiding potential duplicate device records. So various factors can lead to duplicate records, such as redundant device discovery scans or recent onboarding or offboarding activities. This functionality identifies duplicate devices based on their host name and last seen time, and hides them from portal pages like device inventory and Microsoft Defender vulnerability management. But you should remember that the duplicates will still remain visible in global search, advanced hunting, alerts page, and incidents page. This is by default set to on, but if you want to retain that visibility of potential duplicate device records, you can manually deactivate this, okay? The next setting is custom network indicators. So this feature will enable you to generate indicators for IP addresses, domains, or URLs. You can decide whether they will be permitted or blocked based on your personalized indicator list, okay? So that indicator list, like I showed you before, is under rules indicators. If you go, you have IP addresses and URLs and domains. So if I go back to advanced features and scroll down to that custom indicators, it clearly says to use this features, devices must be running Windows 10 version 1709 or later, and they should also have network protection in block mode, and this version 4.18 something or later of the anti-malware platform. Let's go to the next setting, that is tamper protection. Tamper protection is a feature in MDE that will protect certain security settings from being disabled or changed. In certain cyber attacks, right, malicious actors attempt to deactivate security measures like antivirus protection on your devices. This is usually done to gain easier access to your data, install malware, or exploit your data, identity, and devices. And tamper protection helps guard against these types of activities. When tamper protection is turned on, there are some tamper protected settings that cannot be changed. Like virus and threat protection remains enabled, real-time protection remains turned on, behavior monitoring remains turned on, antivirus protection remains enabled, cloud protection remains enabled, security intelligence updates occur, automatic actions are taken on detected threats, notifications are visible in the Windows Security app on Windows device, archived files are scanned, and exclusions cannot be added or modified. But even if tamper protection is turned on, users can still view their security settings, and it doesn't affect the registration of non-Microsoft antivirus apps with the Windows Security app. The next setting is show user details. If you enable this feature, you can access user details that is stored in Microsoft Entra ID, that is Azure Active Directory. You can access users' picture, name, title, and department information when investigating user account entities. You can view user account information in the alert queue and as well as device details page. Next setting is Skype for Business Integration. It gives you the ability to communicate with users that are using Skype for Business or email or phone. This is usually used when you want to communicate with the user and mitigate risk. So whenever a device is being isolated from the network, so you see some risk and you decide to isolate that device from the network. So let me go to one of the devices first. I'm going to go to this device. So the device page opens. Click on these three dots, more actions. You can see isolate device. So if you click on isolate device, this will show you this action will isolate the device from the network, but it will remain connected to the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint service. But then there is a checkbox where you can say allow Outlook, Teams and Skype for business communication while device is isolated. So if you turn on that advanced feature that we just talked about, even if the device is isolated, it will allow the user to continue communication via Skype for Business. Let me close this and go back to settings, endpoints, advanced features. Let me minimize this main menu. So if I scroll down, the Skype for Business integration is specifically for communication when device is isolated. The next setting is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. So what is Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps? This is a feature that offers comprehensive protection for SaaS applications. It ensures security of your cloud app data. It gives you CASB functionality like shadow IT discovery, visibility into cloud app usage, protection against app-based threats across the cloud, and assessments for information protection and compliance. So if you activate this feature, then it allows MDE, that is Defender for Endpoint signals, to be forwarded to Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps. And this in turn enhances visibility into cloud application usage. So the forwarded data undergoes storage and processing in the same location as your Defender for Cloud Apps data. So it facilitates comprehensive monitoring and analysis. You can also see that it gives them the ability to block unauthorized applications when the custom network indicators setting is turned on. Let's go to the next setting, that is web content filtering. So if you enable this feature, you can block access to websites containing undesirable content. And you can also monitor web activity across all domains. You can customize these policies to specify the categories of web content you wish to block. So on the same page, if I scroll down under rules, there is web content filtering. Here you can create the policies. So if I want to add a policy, web content policy, let me say test and then go to next. You can select what you want to block. Okay, it says select the web content categories to block. There are different categories like adult content. I can block like gambling, or I can select all to block all adult content. And then if I scroll down, there is high bandwidth download sites are blocked, or I can select all again. And you can also block legal liability content like hacking, illegal drugs. And then there is leisure, mostly entertainment like, games, social networking. All this can be blocked. You can also block parked domains or newly registered domains as well. I'm going to cancel this and go back to advanced features. The next setting is unified audit log. So audit log is used for investigating specific activities across Microsoft 365 services, including Microsoft Defender XDR and MDE actions. So activities like changes to data retention settings, changes to advanced features, creation of indicators of compromise, isolation of devices, adding, editing, deleting any security roles, creating or editing custom detection rules, assigning user to an incident. All these are the activities that can be audited. So to access this audit log, you need to either have view only audit logs role or audit logs role that is set in Exchange Online. So by default, these are assigned to the compliance management and organization management role groups. So if you turn this setting on, that is unified audit log, whenever there is an audited activity that is performed by a user or admin, an audit record is generated and stored in the Office 365 audit log. So if you go to the main menu and scroll down, there should be an audit tab. If you go to the audit tab, you can see the audit logs. You can search, it has custom criteria here. And then you can also look at audit retention policies. You can set up a retention policy here. Let me go back to advanced features, settings, endpoints, advanced features. So we understood what is unified audit log button. The next one is device discovery.
We discussed this in one of the previous questions, so I'm going to skip this here.
The next setting is download quarantined files. Let me minimize the main menu. So if you enable this feature, the files that are quarantined by Microsoft Defender antivirus or by your security team will be securely saved according to your sample submission configurations. What is the sample submission setting? So if you again go to your start button and search for virus and threat protection, remember we discussed cloud delivered protection. Along with this, there is sample submission as well. So there are many different options available for this. Like you can set to send safe samples automatically, send all samples automatically, or do not send any samples. The samples are sent to Microsoft, by the way. Let me close this. So if you turn this feature on, that is download quarantined files, the quarantined files will be securely saved and your security team can easily download these files from the files detail page from the Defender portal. So enabling this setting facilitates rapid investigation of potentially malicious files, enhancing incident response capabilities while minimizing risk. The next setting is live response. If you turn this on, this will give access to your security team to access a device using a remote shell connection.
We discussed this as well in one of the previous questions, so I'm going to keep it very brief here.
Let's go to the next one. So there is a separate one for live response for servers, and there is one more for live response unsigned script execution. This will allow you to run unsigned scripts in a live response session. The next setting is share endpoint alerts with Microsoft Compliance Center. So Microsoft Compliance Center is this page which is on compliance.microsoft.com. Like you can see, this is your home page for managing compliance needs using integrated solutions to help protect sensitive information, manage data lifecycles, reduce insider risks, safeguard personal data, and more. This focuses on the compliance posture of your organization. So here you can find insider risk management. So if I click on it, this is the page. I have not set this up, so it is telling me you can do this. There is data lifecycle management, information protection. You can create labels, label policies. There'll be a separate video on compliance portal. I'm not going to explain it more here. Just understand this is the portal, this is the home page for you to focus on compliance. And if you enable this, the endpoint security alerts and their triage status will be forwarded to the Microsoft compliance portal. And this will enable enhanced insider risk management policies. So this integration allows organizations to identify and remediate internal risks before they escalate. So if you configure security policy violation indicators in the insider risk management settings that I showed you before, that is, if you scroll down in the main menu of compliance portal, if you set up the policy here, security policy violation indicators, and then you turn this setting on, then the Defender for Endpoint alerts are shared with insider risk management for relevant users. The next setting is Microsoft Intune connection. So this will facilitate an integration between Defender for Endpoint and Microsoft Intune. To use this feature, you will have to enable integration on both Intune as well as Defender for Endpoint. Once you enable this, you will be able to share Defender for Endpoint device information with Intune. This is for enhanced policy enforcement.
I mentioned about this feature when we were onboarding devices using Intune, so you can refer to that if you require more details. Microsoft Intune is a cloud-based endpoint management solution. So with Intune, you can manage user access to resources. Also, it simplifies app and device management across your many devices, that is including mobile devices, desktop computers, virtual endpoints. The next option is authenticated telemetry. That is, if you keep authenticated telemetry turned on, it will prevent spoofing telemetry into your dashboard. That is, it prevents spoofing telemetry into Defender for Endpoint. The next setting is preview features. If you turn this on, it will help you discover new features in the Defender for Endpoint preview release and also test upcoming functionalities by enabling the preview experience. This will just allow you to gain access to advanced features before they are officially launched and contribute feedback to enhance the overall user experience. That is about preview features. These are all the settings that is available in the advanced features of Microsoft Defender for Endpoint or Microsoft Defender XDR.
The next question is, what is automated investigation and response in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Microsoft Defender XDR? So automated investigation and response, that is AIR in Microsoft Defender, refers to the capability to automatically detect and respond to security threats. That is without the need for manual intervention, that is without any analyst taking action. It analyzes the security alerts, investigates the potential threats, and takes appropriate remediation actions in real time. So this automated approach helps organizations to quickly identify and mitigate security incidents, as well as reduce the time and effort required to respond to cyber threats effectively. So how is this automated investigation triggered, right? So there are two ways. One is when an alert is triggered, and the second one is when an investigation is started manually. Say I log into security.microsoft.com, that is the Defender portal, and in the main menu I go to incident and alerts. In that I'm going to incidents. Whenever there is an alert like this here, that is, suppose say there is a suspicious file on a device. When that file is detected by MDE, it triggers an alert and an incident is created for it. And then what happens once the incident is created, an automated investigation starts on that device. That is one way that automated investigation gets triggered. The second way is that it is done manually by some security analyst. Suppose I go to the main menu, scroll down to assets and then devices. Go to one of these devices, and then if you see on the device page, there are three dots, more actions. If you click on that, there is initiate automated investigation. If I click on this, it says successfully initiated an automated investigation on selected device. So if I go back now to incidents and alerts and then incidents, you see there is an incident created which says automated investigation manually started on one endpoint, which I did right now. So if I click on this automated investigated started manually, and once I click on this, it gives me the alert information saying this is detected by automated investigation, and my device is still offline, so it has not yet detected anything on it. It will still say pending, and then date when it was triggered, by whom it was triggered, and then the incident details as well. So if you see this investigation status, it says waiting for device. Now let me close this and go back to incidents tab. So what happens when this is running automated investigation? If there are any other alerts that are triggered for this device, it will also get added to the same incident under this, okay? Or if the same threat is found on other devices, then it will also get added to the same incidents. And not only here, you can also see this under actions and submission action center. Okay, let me go to another incident which was triggered a few days back. So you see this was triggered a few days back, and once an alert is triggered or you manually initiated automated investigation, it runs and then it gives a verdict. So here if I go to investigations, you see here it says no threats found. Either it says it is malicious, suspicious, or no threats found. And depending on this verdict, that is malicious, suspicious, or no threats found, automated investigation can result in one or more remediation actions. Remediation actions can be one or more of these. That is, remediation action can be quarantining a file, remove a registry key, kill a process, stop a service that is running, disable a driver, or remove a scheduled task. So the remediation action for an automated investigation is either taken automatically or upon approval by a security analyst. Okay, that depends on the setting that you have set in Microsoft Defender. Now we will see how to configure automated investigation. So let me go back to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. In the main menu, if I scroll down and then go to settings, let me minimize this. In Endpoints, if you scroll down and go to permissions and then device groups, here when you add a device group, you can set the automation level. Like for example, I'll just say test device group 1, remediation level. So you get options for no automated response, semi, require approval for all folders, require approval for non-temp folders, require approval for core folders, and full remediation. So what does it mean? So Microsoft recommends to set it in full remediate threats automatically. Okay, if you don't set any automated response, then it means no remediation action will be taken. That is, with no automation, automated investigation will not run on any of your devices or the devices included in that device group. So for all the new tenants rights that were created after 2020, Defender for Endpoint is set to full automation by default. You can change it using this option, that is going to settings and changing it for the device groups. So going back to this, no automated response means automated investigation will not be triggered on any of the devices. Because of that, no remediation action will be taken. Usually this is not the recommended option because no action is taken here. Okay. The next one is semi-automation. And semi-automation, there are 3 types. First one is that you require approval for all folders. So to take any remediation action on any of the files in any of the folders, approval is required from a security analyst. If you go to Action Center, then you will have all of them listed. And based on your analysis, you can approve or reject a pending action. Require approval for all folders is temp, other, and Windows. The next one is semi-automation that requires approval for non-temp folders. So with this, an approval is required for the remediation action to be taken on files or executables that are not in the temporary folder. So temporary folders can be something like this. You see users, app data, local, temp, and under that you have all the other folders and files, or document and setting temp, Windows temp, under that users download temp, program files temp. So only for these temporary folders automation will run, that is there is auto remediation, but for the others and the Windows folders you need approval. The next semi is require approval for core folders. Core folders include operating system directories, like for example Windows, under that everything. For any remediation action on files or executables that are in the core folder, an approval is required by the security analyst. Otherwise, automation remediation is set. And then there is full remediation. This is the recommended setting by Microsoft. And here, automated actions are taken automatically on everything that is considered malicious. It can be under any folder, including the core folder, the Windows core folder. So currently, automated investigation and response only supports Windows OS versions, that is Windows Server 2012, 2016, 2019, and 2022. As well as Windows 10 and Windows 11. So going back to our Defender portal, so I gave the device name, then the remediation level, I will select it as full remediation, that is full remediate threats automatically. Then there is description. Description is not mandatory. And then next. And then you can select the devices here that you want to be in this group. I'm going to say it should start with say D. the name, and then there is domain and tag as well. I'm just going to give this and then say yes, show preview. If you show preview, it will tell you what are the devices that will be in this device group. This is a great feature, but it only shows up to 10 devices. Then I'm going to go next. And the next is to limit access to the device group, grant access to specific user groups. So you can select what user groups you want to give access to this device group, and this is how you can create a device group and add the remediation level for that. And if I go back to the incident that I created previously, you can see what is the attack story. You can play this to see the attack story. Sometimes there are many alerts, it actually goes one after the other. And this is the device that I triggered it on in the incident graph. And then there is alerts. How many alerts are in this incident? It shows you that too. And then assets, it includes all the devices, users, mailboxes, apps, and cloud resources. And then there is investigation. So here the investigation status is still waiting for device. And then there is evidence and response. Under evidence, you can see pieces of evidence raised by these alerts or investigation. Like here, I can see the IP address. And then if you go to summary, it tells you how many active alerts are on this device, impacted devices, device name, and what is the alert on that was triggered. So here you can find all the details related to automated investigation. And if you want to take any action, you can go to the action center. So that's about automated investigation and response in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint.
The next question is
how to run an antivirus detection test to verify that the device is onboarded properly and it is reporting to the service, that is MDE service. To test any kind of antivirus or anti-malware, we use a file called as ICAR test file. So if you go to Google and search for ICAR test file and go to the Wikipedia page, it tells you what this test file is. So this was developed by an institute called ICAR and CARO. This is the test file used to test the response of computer antivirus programs. So any antivirus that you have installed on your machine, you can test it with this test file. So instead of using any genuine or real malware, which will actually pose a risk, you can use this test file that will enable users to evaluate antivirus software. And this will not even cause any harm to your laptop. So if you can see, it says antivirus developers use ICAR string as a confirmed virus, a verified virus. So a virus scanner, if at all it detects this file, should react similarly to detecting a harmful virus on your machine. Most of the antivirus solutions will detect this as real malware, but there might be a couple of them which might not. So let's see how to use this ICAR test file. So if you scroll down, it says this is the ICAR test string. So I'm going to copy this ICAR string, open Notepad and paste it in Notepad. And I'm going to go save this file as icar.txt. As soon as I save this file, I should get a notification that something malicious is detected. So I'm going to hit save. So you see this, there is a notification from Virus and Threat Protection saying threats found. And it says Microsoft Defender antivirus found threats. That means the AV solution of Microsoft is working fine on my laptop. So if I click on this, there is no action that I need to take. Why there is no action that I need to take? Because if I close this, I saved it on my desktop, the file icar, right? But if I go to my desktop, I don't find any file called icar that has been already taken care by the AV solution. So now let me go back to my Defender portal, and then in Incident and Alerts tab, I'm going to click on Incidents. If you see here, there was an icar test file malware was prevented on one endpoint. So because it was prevented, I don't have to take any other action. Let me go to this. Let me minimize this main menu. So you can see here that icar file was prevented. If you scroll down, it also tells you that the service source is MDE, detection status prevented, detection, source, antivirus. And if you scroll down, it also gives you evidence, that is entity name, remediation, status, prevented, verdict, suspicious. It is giving 2 files here because I tried to do it twice. If you're doing it only once, then it's going to be only 1 file. I did it twice because I didn't capture the pop-up in the first try. If I scroll down, it gives you the alert description of what happened and why this file was stopped, because it thought it was a malware. You can test this not only on Windows machines but also on Linux, Mac as well. But for this to work, make sure that Microsoft Defender real-time protection is enabled. So if you search for virus and threat protection, you'll get this window, virus and threat protection. Go to manage settings. Here you can see there is a button for real-time protection, and it says that real-time protection locates and stops malware from installing or running on your device. You can turn off the setting for a short time before it turns back on automatically. But this if you have MDE in your organization, I don't think that will allow you to do it because it is grayed out, and it also says this setting is managed by your administrator. The same thing if you want to test it on Linux, first you will run this mdatp health command to make sure that real-time protection is enabled. If you run this command, you should be getting 1 as the output. If that is so, then it is enabled. Then you can get the file using this. You're creating the file, that is icar.tech, and then you can test AV detection. And if you are using Mac OS, you can use this command. I will link all of these in the description box.
The next question is,
what is network protection? Why is it required? And how to enable it? So what is network protection in Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? This capability helps protect your devices from internet-based events. Network protection is one of the features of attack surface reduction. So it basically stops bad stuff from getting in, like, harmful websites that might trick you into giving away information, that is phishing sites or downloading harmful software. It not only works for web browsers, but it also works for other apps as well. It leverages Microsoft Defender Smart Screen and extends its capability to block HTTPS traffic to potentially harmful domains. If you want to know what is Microsoft Defender Smart Screen, there is a different video. I'm going to link it in the description box. So web protection covers 3 main features. First one is web threat protection. Second is custom indicators. And the third one is web content filtering. For all of these to work, smart screen must be enabled and network protection must be in block mode. There are different modes in network protection. It should be in block mode for these features to work. We will talk about the different modes in a minute. So custom indicators in the Defender portal, if you scroll down to settings and then go to endpoints and then scroll down, under rules you have indicators. Let me minimize this. You see IP addresses, URLs and domains. You can add IP addresses, URLs and domains here, but network protection should be enabled in block mode for this, as well as smart screen should be enabled. And then another feature is web content filtering. If you scroll down under rules only, there is web content filtering as well, and you can add web content filtering policies here. So if I give the name test and then go blocked categories, so web content categories to block, you can mention here like gambling, download sites, peer-to-peer, child abuse images. All this can be blocked using web content filtering. This is another feature that is covered by network protection. So network protection acts like a shield for your network. That is, it is capable of blocking both URLs, that is website addresses, and IP addresses. So it can block URLs from being accessed by certain browsers and standard network connections. So it uses the smart screen feed, that is the database of smart screen, to protect your devices from known malicious URLs. So how smart screen blocks malicious URLs in Microsoft Edge browser? It is it acts in a similar way. So like I mentioned before, you can use network protection to block your own threat intelligent IP and URL addresses from indicators tab. You can also block unsanctioned services or apps from Microsoft Defender for cloud apps using network protection. You can also extend this to web content filtering, that is, block browser access to websites based on category. It can also identify and block C2 infrastructures used in human operated ransom attacks. C2 infrastructure is command and control attacks. So command and control servers, right? They are like puppet masters for malware infected computers. They are used by cyber criminals to remotely control systems that have been compromised by malicious software. C2 servers can be used to carry out a range of harmful actions, like, for example, stealing sensitive data from compromised systems, controlling compromised computers to form a botnet, disrupting legitimate applications and services, that is, causing chaos and damage to organizations. It can also be used for spreading malware, but the network protection component of MDE can identify such things and also block them. So whenever a user is trying to access a website, there are three chances. The first one is that the URL might have a known good reputation. So in this case, the user is allowed to access that website and there is no notification presented on the endpoint. So this domain or URL is set to allow. Next thing that can happen is the URL might be of unknown or uncertain reputation. So in this, what happens? The user's access is blocked, but the user can unblock it. He is given an option to unblock this website. That means that the domain or URL is set to audit. Next option is the URL has a known or malicious reputation. Then the user is prevented from access and this domain or URL is set to block. So either you can get a warning message or a block message. In the warning message, if the URL has unknown or uncertain reputation, like this one that we discussed here, then it will give you three options: OK, unblock, and feedback. If you say OK, then the attempt to access that site is blocked, that is, it is ended right there. If you say unblock, then you are given access to that site for 24 hours and then it is blocked again. If you are the user, you can try to access that site again and again you'll be given these options and you can unblock it until the admin blocks this site. And the next option is feedback. Here the user with a link can submit a ticket. So the user is given an option to submit a ticket in an attempt to justify why they want to access this site. Then in the block mode, if the URL has bad or malicious reputation, then they are given options with block and feedback. If you say OK, then the connection is ended. If you want to provide a justification why you want to access this site, then you can use the feedback button to create a ticket. But there is no unblock option like how we got it in the warning message. So if I go back to the Defender portal, go to indicators, in the URL and domain, if I want to create a new one, let me click on these three buttons and then say add item. URL or domain that I want to block is example.com. Then the title, I'll say test. Description, you can give something that describes why you need this indicator so that the other admins can understand that as well. And then it says expires. You can set it to never or custom. This time is in UTC. I'm going to say May 1st. And then if you scroll down, there is statistics. This is an option which says that check the statistics to understand the impact of adding this indicator. So you can see what will happen if you add this indicator. Data is from the last 30 days on devices with Windows 10. So if you click on this, it will give you what has happened with example.com, how many people from your organization have tried to access this, are there any alerts for this, what is the threat intelligence verdict on it, and the domain details, like domain name is example.com, it was registered on so and so, it was updated so and so, it expires on this, and there is also contact information. You can go to whois page as well to see more details. So I'm going to close this for now. and then hit next. In here, there is this option to select what should happen when this URL or domain is accessed. Either you allow access, audit, warn, or block execution. So whenever that URL or domain is accessed, you can either allow the user to access that URL or domain, audit it. That means if a user visits a malicious or any URL or domain you add here I've added example.com, users will not be blocked from accessing that malicious site, but an event will be recorded in the Windows event log. Warning is, like I said before, it will block the access, but it will also give you an option to unblock it for the users. Block execution is users cannot access that malicious IP address, domain, or URL. So if I set this to allow and then go next, it's gonna tell me device groups scope all devices in my organization, and then I can hit next. It's going to give me a summary of this. But if I go back and select audit and go next, so it will give you an option to generate the alert whenever that URL is accessed. You can set the severity of the alert. I'm going to set it as say low, and then you can select the category as well. I'm going to say initial access, and then just as a note for people who are working on the alert, I'm going to just say testing. Then I can go next. It will tell you device group scope, all devices in my organization, then a summary. But if I go back and set this to warning and then hit next, it will tell me what is the bypass duration. So if you hover over this, it says how often should users be warned about this indicator. If I click on it, it says every 1 hour, once a day, and once a week. And you can also add an URL here, that is user notification custom URL. It is an informative URL to the warning message shown to users. So you can add a URL in the message and then click on next. It's gonna again ask you if you want to generate an alert and then hit next. You can again go back, and then if you select block execution and set next, it's gonna again give you the option to generate an alert, and then you can submit it. I'm gonna cancel this now. So that is how you create indicators for IP addresses and URLs or domains. Now let's see how to enable network protection using Microsoft Intune. Let me go to Intune admin center. So the Intune admin center is at intune.microsoft.com. I think before it was at endpoint.microsoft.com, but if you go to endpoint.microsoft.com now, it redirects you to intune.microsoft.com. First, let's see how to enable network protection using Microsoft Defender for Endpoint baseline. Okay. So in the main menu, go to Endpoint Security. In that, go to Security Baselines. In this, select Microsoft Defender for Endpoint baseline. In this, create profile. Click on that. You will be given an option to create the profile. Name, I'm going to say network protection test. You can provide description as well. And then I'm going to hit next. In the configuration settings, there is attack surface reduction rules. Like I said, network protection is one of the attack surface reduction capabilities. If you scroll down in this, there is enable network protection. If you hover over this, it's going to tell you what is network protection, what happens if you enable this. See, it says network protection protects employees from accessing phishing scams and malicious content on the internet. This includes third-party browsers as well. If you set this to audit only, then the users will not be blocked from dangerous domains. However, Windows events will be raised instead. There'll be a log in the Windows event log. If you set it to not configured, network protection is disabled and the users will not be blocked from any malicious website. So if you click on this, you have options. You can disable it, not configure it, and you can enable it in the audit mode. I'm just going to go and say enable. And then once I enable this enable network protection tab, I'm going to hit next. It is going to take me to the scope tags. You can select the appropriate tag here, and then if you click on next, it's going to ask you, do you want to include all the users? Do you want to add any exclude group? So I would say if you're starting it, test with a few users first. Maybe create a device group with just your IT team And then when you're adding all users, you can exclude some of the groups if you want to. So for now, I've added all users, or you can do all devices. And then there is an exclude group option. You can add a group for which the network protection will not be enabled. And then if you click next, it will give you a summary of everything that you just did, and you can hit create. This is one of the ways. You can also do it by going to endpoint security and then going to antivirus under manage and then hit create policy here. It is asking me to select a platform here. I'm going to go with Windows 10, 11 and Windows Server, and then select a profile. In this, I'm going to select Microsoft Defender Antivirus and then say create. And then it is asking me for the profile name. I'm going to say test network protection antivirus policy. Next, in configuration settings, if I click on this down arrow, it's going to give me options. And if I scroll down, there are many options here. There is enable network protection. I can select this and say disabled, that is the default one, enabled is the block mode, and enabled in the audit mode. For web content filtering and the custom indicators to work, you'll have to enable this in block mode. Okay, so I'm gonna click block mode and then hit next. Again, the scope tags, if you want to add it, I'm not going to select anything here. I'm going to go to the assignments and you can select the group here that you want to apply this policy. Okay, that is how you enable network protection from antivirus policy. Now let's see how you can do it from configuration profiles. So if I go back to home and then I go to devices, in this, if I scroll down under manage devices, there is configuration. I'll go to that. In this, we have policies. Then I'm going to say create a new policy. It is asking me to select the platform. I'm going to say Windows 10 and later. And then profile type, I'm going to select templates. So templates contain groups of settings organized by functionality. So I'll search for endpoint protection. This is the template that I want. So I'm going to select endpoint protection and then hit create. Again, I'm going to give it a name saying test configuration policy for network protection. You can provide a description. Then I'm going to select next. In configuration settings, I'm going to go to Microsoft Defender Exploit Guard. In this, you can say network filtering. If you scroll down, network protection, you can select it enable, audit, or disable or not configured. Here I'm going to say enable. That is, I'm enabling network protection in block mode. If you want to do it in audit mode, you can just say audit. For now, I'll select enable. And then if I click on next, it's going to take me to the assignments where I can say if I want to do it for all the users or just add a few groups or just one testing group here. For now, I'm going to add all the users and then there is an option to exclude groups as well. I'm going to click on next now. So this is the applicability rules tab. You can specify how to apply this profile within an assigned group. Like for example, you can say assign this profile only if, and the property you can say OS edition is so and so or OS version is so and so. Okay, I'm not going to add this. I'm going to delete it now and then click next. And then I can review this. It gives me a summary and create this configuration profile. You can check if network protection is enabled on a local device by using registry editor. So if I go to the start button in the taskbar and type regedit, that is registry editor, click on it. Then here go to H key local machine in that software, and in software go to policies. In policies Microsoft. In Microsoft go to Windows Defender and then policy manager. You can either find it here where it says enable network protection is set to 0. 0 means off, 1 means on, or 2, that is the audit mode. If this is not present, you can also check under software Microsoft Windows Defender and there will be Windows Defender Exploit Guard. You can check under that as well. And if you are using PowerShell, you can use this command to enable it. That is set MP preference, enable network protection to enabled. If you want to disable it, then use the same command. But then instead of enabled, you will write disabled. This is how you disable it. But if you want to enable it in the audit mode, instead of enabled, you can just say audit mode as well. And if you are using group policy, this is where you set that. So you'll go to Windows Components, Microsoft Defender Antivirus, Microsoft Defender Exploit Guard, and Network Protection. You can also enable this using Microsoft Configuration Manager. So in the Configuration Manager, you go to Assets and Compliance, then to Endpoint Protection, and use Windows Defender Exploit Guard. Here you set the properties to configure network protection. And if you want to test if network protection is working fine or not, you can go to this fake malicious domain that is provided by Microsoft, Smart Screen Test Ratings 2.net. So if I go to this now, I'm going to get this page saying this is a test page for Smart Screen. But if you enable network protection and go to this page, you will get a connection blocked message. And that's when you know that the network protection is enabled.
The next question is,
what response actions can be taken on a device? So there is an attack detected. What actions can you take on that particular device? So if I want to go to the device, first, it would have, if there is an attack, it would have generated an alert. So I'm going to go to the alerts page, that is in the Defender portal, security.microsoft.com. I'm going to go to incidents and alerts, then alerts, and then I have the device page. If I click on it and then scroll up, it tells me open device page. I can go to the device page from here, or let me cancel this. In the main menu, if I scroll down to assets, then there is devices. I can go to the device from here as well. I'm going to click on the device name. Let me minimize this. Say that you know that this device is under attack. Okay. So what actions can you take? So if you click on these three dots, you can see the actions that you can take. The first one is to run antivirus scan. If I click on that, here you can remotely initiate an antivirus scan on that device. So Microsoft Defender antivirus scan can run even with other antivirus solutions. So it doesn't matter if Microsoft Defender antivirus is active or no. It might be in passive mode, but still it will work. And you will get two options, quick scan and full scan. So if you're choosing quick scan, that means a quick scan will examine all the potential areas where malware may be registered. Like for example, registry keys and known Windows startup folders. So the quick scan really helps us protect against malware that starts with the system and kernel level malware. And also it leverages always on real-time protection, which reviews files when they are opened and closed and whenever a user navigates to a folder. And the other option is a full scan. So a full scan is initiated with a quick scan. First it does a quick scan and then it does a systematic examination of all the mounted fixed disks and removable drives or network drive. So depending on the volume and nature of the data, a full scan can take a few hours or days to complete. So I'm going to select quick scan for now and say alert investigation in the comment section and then confirm. Once you confirm, this activity gets registered in the action center. Once you're done with it, you can come back after some time, go to the action center and check for this and it will be there. Like, let me close this. If I go to the main menu, scroll up under actions and submissions. If I go to action center, if I go to the history, I can see that antivirus scan was started. It was submitted by me, submission time, and then the status says completed. Let me go back to the device page. I can go to the device page from here only. Let me go back to the three dots and let's look at another response action. So also when you run antivirus scan, even in the timeline of the device, it will show that a scan was submitted. Then the next option is collect investigation package. So this is to collect an investigation package from the device. So this will help us to identify what is the current state of the device, and also you can understand what were the tools and techniques that were used by the attacker. So when I download this, it will be in the zip file. file. Let me click on collect investigation package, and this says this action will gather information about the device. Once completed, you can download and view the package. I'll again say in the comment alert investigation and then confirm. So it says package collection pending. Once it is available, you can see it in the action center. It will say that the package collection is available. So if I go to action center, so you can go to action center from here as well. So I click on action center from the three dots, and so it says package collection package is available. I'm going to download this. So it is in the zip format. I'm going to unzip that. So these are the folders that are available, like auto runs. This has the content of the registry of a known auto start entry point. So if I open this, this will actually help us to know the attacker's persistency on the device because it has the registry of a known auto start entry point. I'm going to close this. Then if I go back, there is installed program. So if I open this, this has the list of what is installed on the device, list of all the programs. I'm going to close this as well. And if I go back, then there is network connections. This is all the information related to connectivity, like connection to any suspicious URLs or attackers, command and control infrastructure, any lateral movement or remote connections. All those data will be here. If I go back, there is prefetch files. So Windows prefetch files are used to speed up the application startup process. So in this, you can see all the files that have been recently used, or if there is any data that is deleted, all that you can see here. If I go back, then there is processes. This will give you the list of all the running processes that are currently running on the device. This you can check if you want to identify any suspicious process that is being run by the attacker. And then there is scheduled tasks. Here you can see any tasks that are automatically scheduled. And then if I go back, there is security event log. This contains, like the name says, security event logs, like for example login and logout activity. See, if I open this, see, it is giving me all the details. Let me close it as well. Then if I go back, there is services folder where you will get the list of services and what status they are in. And then there is SMB folder. It will give us the list of shared access to any files, printers and serial ports. I don't have any from this device, so it is saying there is nothing. I'm going to close it. And then there is system information. It's like, information about OS version and network cards. And then if I go back, there is temp directory, contains a set of text files that list the files located in the temp directory. Okay, for every user we have a temp directory. It will give us those details. Then there is users and groups. And if you go to local groups, you can see what are the groups available. Then I'm going to close this. And then there is WD support logs. And then there is a collection summary file as well. So it tells us what commands were run to collect all this data. See the command name and the command line. If it was successful, it had failed for some reason, if there was an error, all the details will be there in that forensics summary log. Okay, let me close this folder now. So that's about collection package. Now let's see restrict app execution. If I click on that, so this action will prevent applications that are not signed by Microsoft from running. So only Microsoft applications will run, nothing else can be executed on that device. So once you do that, the user will also get a notification saying that some apps may not function as expected because your IT admin has caused some Windows Defender limitations. Okay, let me close this. And the next action that we can take on a device is initiate automated investigation. If I click on that, see, it says successfully initiated an automated investigation on the selected devices.
We did discuss automated investigation and response in one of our previous questions.
So there'll be an investigation that will run on the device again, and it will be added in the incidents and alert section if it finds something malicious or suspicious. So I'm going to close this for now and go back to the three dots. The next one is initiate live response session. This will help us connect to the device using a shell.
We did discuss live response as well before.
Let me go back, and if I want to disconnect, again the 3 dots and say disconnect session, confirm. So it says session disconnected. I'm going to close this and go back to the device, and then there is isolate device tab. So what happens when you isolate a device? It will disconnect the device from the network. So it says clearly this action will isolate the device from the network. It will be disconnected from the network, but it will still be connected to Microsoft Defender for endpoint service. So even if it is isolated, you can still get data from the device, and also you can use live response even when it is isolated. So there is another option which says allow Outlook, Teams and Skype for business communication while device is isolated. So you can check this if you want the user still be able to see Outlook, Teams and Skype, and then add a comment here and then say confirm. I don't want to isolate the device, so I'm not going to do it, but that is how you perform isolation, and then again close. So if you have chosen to enable Outlook, Teams or Skype, right, you will still be able to communicate with the user even when the device is isolated. Also, when you isolate the device, the user will get a notification saying that the network is disabled. So these are the actions that you can take on a managed device. Managed device in the sense it has Microsoft Defender endpoint on it. But if you have unmanaged devices, you can also take actions on those. Like for say that you find that an unmanaged device which doesn't have Microsoft Defender. So there is this feature called device discovery that will help you to identify other unmanaged devices in your network using the devices that have Microsoft Defender endpoint on them. Once you find those unmanaged devices in your device inventory, and suppose say that you have identified that one of these unmanaged devices compromised, you can take action on those devices as well. You can contain that device from the network. So when you contain that unmanaged device, the device that has Microsoft Defender endpoint onboarded on it will stop all the incoming and outgoing communication with that device. So when you try to contain that device, it will also give you a pop-up saying this action will contain the device. Microsoft Defender endpoint onboarded devices will block communication to or from that device. So if you want to stop containing that device, you can just go click on, instead of contain this device, there'll be an option to release from containment. And something that I forgot to mention is this download force release from isolation script. So isolating a device is a great thing to do when you know there is an attack going on, but sometimes you can not directly release that device. Sometimes the device becomes unresponsive when you isolate the device. So you can download this force release from isolation script and run it on the device to forcibly release those devices from isolation. So if I click on it, it says in situations when the device isn't responding, you can download and run a script to force its release from isolation. So download a script and then run it. Let me close this. Also, when there is an attack, there is an option to ask Defender experts. I don't have this package, but it says that I can enroll to this. So this is how it will be if I had this option enabled. Investigation topic, it will take the device page that I am on. Then there is an option to provide your email address where you want the communication. So you can ask Microsoft Defender experts as well. These are called experts on demand, but you need to purchase this package. And once you take any action, you can go to the action center and see what has happened here. You can look at the investigation package collection, antivirus scan that is being run, any app restriction that is there, or device isolation from the action center. So these are the response actions that you can take on a device.
The next question is,
what actions you can take on a file if you found that it is malicious or potentially malicious. So in order to respond to an attack, you can stop that file from running, you can quarantine a file, you can add it to the custom indicators, you can download the file, analyze it, and also take some other actions. First, let's go to the file. So I want to search for this file called vlc.exe. So vlc.exe is an executable file for the VLC media player. I use this media player to play various audio and video files. You can go to the Defender portal, that is security.microsoft.com, and at the top where you have the search button, you can search for vlc.exe if you know the file name. And it's going to take some time loading. It's going to give you all the options. It tells you there are files like this, URLs, and so many other options as well. So if I click on it, I'm going to go to this files one. It says open file page. Sometimes you don't find it like this. If you don't find it in the search bar, you search for file. Okay, when you search for files, let me minimize this. This search page opens up where you can, search for devices, users, groups, files, vulnerabilities, software recommendations. I'm going to go to the files, and here as well, you can see all the files as well as search for them. Here, if I search for VLC, I'm going to get all the files that have VLC in them. I can also search for exe executable files, and I'm going to get all the executable files only. So let me go back to my vlc.exe search. So this is the file. I'm going to click on that file, and this is the file page. On the file page, you will see the overview. It says what is the hash value, file size, is it a PE? PE is short for portable executable file, and who is the issuer, who signed this file, and there is metadata as well, company name or original name, product description. See, from here, if you didn't know VLC was an media player, you can get it from here. So it gives you some information, and it says incidents and alerts. You have no incidents or alerts for this. It also says in the last 30 days, this file was seen on how many devices. And if you scroll down, it also says when was it first or last found on these devices. Again, there is incidents and alerts. We don't have anything for this file. Observed an organization, the same thing that we saw in the overview, how many devices it is there. And then file names. File name is vlc.exe. It also gives you file content where I have details only for registry reads. You can see the registry key. And now if I want to take any actions, let's see what should be done or what can be done using MDE. The first thing on the screen that we see is manage indicator. This will allow us to block or allow a file. Like, let me click on this. It says add indicator. If I click on that. So if you know that a file is malicious, you can just go ahead and block it. So it takes the file hash. You don't have to provide anything. And title, I can say VLC media player. And then I'm going to just copy and paste that in the description box. And expires never. That means this file will always be blocked, or you can choose custom. Say I want to block it till the next 2 weeks and see what happens. And then it also shows you statistics. That means check statistics to understand the impact of adding this custom indicator. So it will give you data for the past 30 days on devices with Windows 10 or newer. So I'm going to click next. And then it gives me the option to allow, audit, warn, block execution, block and remediate. Allow option means that the IOC is allowed to run on your devices. Then there was this option called audit. Audit means it will trigger an alert when the IOC runs, but no action is taken on it. It is not blocked when it is in the audit mode. Only an alert is triggered. The next option is warn. So the users who are running this IOC will get a pop-up message saying that it is a risky app or risky file, but this prompt will not block them from allowing the application to run. The users can still bypass the warning and continue to use the application if they want to. You can add all custom messages and links to this prompt, but it won't block them. It gives an option to the users if they want to do it, if they don't want to do it, telling them that it is risky. The next option is block. That means the execution won't happen. The IOC, that is the file that we add in this custom indicator, will not be able to run. The last option is block and remediate. That means first the IOC won't be allowed to run, and also a remediation action will be applied to that IOC. I think before the audit mode was called as alert only mode, and block and remediate was called alert and block. So these are the actions that you can take. Let me say block execution for now and then say next. Then it says, do you want to generate an alert when you block this execution? So if I go back, if I say allow and then click next, it is directly going to the page where I have to select the scope, all devices in the organization. And then if I go back and say audit next, you see this, it is giving me an alerts details page where the generate alert button is grayed out. That means it is mandatory. You will have to select the alert severity. I'm going to say low, and the alert category, say malware, and recommended actions. This is for the admins or security analysts that are looking at the alert. They will look at the recommended actions as well. If I go back, then there is one. If I click next, it says no actions for file indicator to be set. Then it tells me generate alert. Here it is giving me an option to, if at all I want to generate the alert, I can choose this. Okay. And then I'm going to go back. I just want to show you all the options that are available for these. Then there is block execution. Again, it's my choice if I want to generate an alert or no. Then there is block and remediate. Even here, I have an option. Only for the audit mode, I don't have this option. It will generate an alert. So for now, I'm going to go with block execution. Next, severity low, category as malware, recommended actions. For now, I'll write it as test, and then I can go next. And organizational scope, all devices in my organization are included. And then I'm going to say next. It is going to give me a summary of what we did right now. And then if I hit submit, indicator will be added. But for now, I'm not doing it. So I'm going to cancel that. So that's how you add custom indicators for files. You can also do this by going to the main menu, scroll down to settings, and then to endpoints. And then here, if you scroll down under rules, you have indicators. And here you have an option to add file hashes. If you click on these three dots and add item, you're going to go to the same page. So here again, you will have to add the file hash. It will be on the file main page. So if you see vlc.exe, this hash value, you can add it here and then do the same thing like I showed before. Let me cancel this, go back to the file page, open file page, minimize the main menu. So let's go back and click on these three dots. There is download file option. You can download it on your machine. So if I click on download file, I'm getting this error saying this action applies only to files seen in the last 30 days in your organization. But this is not. So I'm going to show another example. Let me say I'll search for outlook.exe. So in the files, I'm going to go to this. So there is a download option. I'm going to click on download option. It tells me the file will be zipped as well as password protected and saved to your downloads folder. It says outlook.exe is ready for download. Reason for downloading, I'll say analysis and then create password. I'm going to give a dummy password for now and then generate download link. And then I'm going to click on download. So it started to download. It's downloaded the zip file. If I open this, I move this to a different folder. Now I'll try to unzip this. Right click, extract all. Yeah, this is the location I want. I'm going to say extract. So it is asking me for the password that I created. So now it will unzip. So if you have a sandbox, then you can download files like this and analyze them. Let me go back to the Defender portal. So that's how you download a file. And then there are other actions too. There's stop and quarantine file. So because this is outlook.exe, it says this file is signed by a Microsoft trusted publisher. Actions have been disabled to prevent negative impact on the devices. So anything that is signed by Microsoft, you cannot stop and quarantine that file. Okay, let's go to another example. I don't think we can do it with VLC as well because it was not identified in the past 30 days. So stop and quarantine is grayed out here as well. No file quarantine. This action can be taken only on files found on Windows 10 in the past 30 days. So let me go to another file that is on my machine. So here, if I click on the three dots, instead of download file, it says collect file. So this can take a while. When a device with the file becomes available, we will collect the file and enable downloading it from the file page. Okay. And then stop and quarantine. It is going to give me this pop-up which says this action will attempt to stop running instances of the file and then quarantine the file and remove persistence mechanisms. So it is found on one device. This is the hash value that will be blocked. In the comment section, I'm going to say suspicious and then I'm going to say confirm. So it tells me that the file was successfully quarantined and who submitted it, when it was submitted. When this file is being removed from the device, the user will get a notification saying an unwanted application was found and it is being removed. I'm going to close this now. And now you have quarantined, you have done your analysis and you found this file to be not malicious. You can run this following command. So you have to go to start, open the command prompt and run this command as an administrator to recover the file, to restore the file from quarantine. So this is going to run Windows Defender, which is under program files, mpcmd run.exe. It is going to restore and the file name and the file should be back in your original folder. So another action that you can do is deep analysis. Suppose say there is a file that is new or unknown and you want more data on it. You can choose deep analysis. So when I go to deep analysis, it says deep analysis currently supports analysis of only PE files. For example, .exe or .dll files, but not for this. This is actually a text file. When you submit a file for deep analysis, the file is collected from the device or from the Microsoft sample store if the file already exists. Collecting the file can take up to 3 hours depending on the file and device availability. So let's go to another file which we can actually analyze. So vlc.exe, it is available. Let me see if it works. It is processing request and then now it says analyzing request, analyzing the file, sorry. So if you hover over this, it says file analysis can take up to 15 minutes. The result of the analysis will be available when the analysis is completed. So this might take some time, but deep analysis usually gives you results about files activity, their observed behaviors, associated artifacts such as any files that are dropped, registry modifications and communications with IP addresses. So this is going to take time, I guess. So let's go back to the overview. And all these actions that you take can be seen in the action center. Like you can see if it was quarantined or deep analysis was, initiated. You can see all that in the action center. And also if you click on these three dots, if you say go hunting, it will take you to the advanced hunting page where there are few custom queries that you can use or many queries that you can build on your own. There's a separate chapter on advanced hunting if you are interested. But for now, just know that you can go to advanced hunting and find more details on this file. You can modify the queries or use some custom built queries here. So it's a very good option if you want to know more about the file that you're working on. So these are the actions that you can take on a file when you think it is suspicious.
The next question is
how to send files, emails, email attachments, URLs to Microsoft for further analysis. So what is this submissions feature? What can you do with this option in Microsoft Defender and why is it required? So there are different ways to do this. We'll go through it one by one. Go to Microsoft Defender portal, that is security.microsoft.com. In the main menu, go to Actions and Submissions. Click on it, you'll get the Submissions tab. Click on Submissions, and this is the Submissions page. So let me go ahead and close this main menu. Like you can see here, there are different options to do it. You can submit emails, Teams messages, email attachments, URLs, files, and user-reported messages. So you can submit items in two ways. One is by the admin and one is by the user. This user-reported one is for the users and these are for the admins. So when you see suspicious emails, URLs, attachments, or files, both users as well as admins have the option to report and submit them to Microsoft for further analysis. This will in turn help Microsoft in refining its detection mechanisms and reducing the need for extensive investigation and mitigation efforts. Say that a legit file or legit email message is marked as suspicious or malicious. That is, there is a false positive. You can submit those files messages to Microsoft for analysis and improve the detections. You can also submit some suspicious or malicious messages, URLs, files that have been allowed to Microsoft so that it can improve its detection again and block such kind of messages. Let's first see for files how it works. I'm going to click on files. And then there is an option called add submission. If I click on this, so when I click on it, it says we will review and use your submission to update our detections. Whenever you submit any information to Microsoft like files, email attachments, it can be anything. Everything related to that submission is copied and included in ongoing algorithm reviews. This includes message content, headers, attachments, routing data, and any other associated information. So by making a submission, you're giving all the permission to Microsoft to analyze this information to enhance submission hygiene algorithms. So all of these submissions are stored in secure and audited data centers in the USA. They are also deleted when they are no longer necessary. Here you have the option to select the submission type. If I click on it, it is either through you can upload the file directly or you can provide the file hash. When I select the file hash value, I'm going to get a place where I can include the hash value here. For now, I will upload a file, a test file. It is giving me an option to upload a file. It also says the maximum limit is 500 MB. I'm gonna click on browse files and I will select a test file that I've created, say open. So if I scroll down from here, it gives me an option to select malware, unwanted software, clean. The file that I'm uploading should have been categorized as a malware, okay, and it is clean. Or if it is identified as malicious but it is actually a clean file, so I'm gonna select clean. You can choose one of these options based on your analysis. Let me say clean for now. So this is a false positive. It is identified as suspicious, but it is clean. That means it is a false positive that I'm submitting. Then it also tells you to choose the priority low, medium, high. High means you need immediate attention. Medium, standard submission. Low, bulk file or file hash submission. For high, only 3 are allowed per organization per day. I'm going to choose medium here. And the note for Microsoft, you can write anything that you want to add, but I'm going to say don't analyze. It is a test file. And if I scroll down, there is also a checkbox which I can check for share feedback and relevant content with Microsoft. So by pressing this button, I will agree to transmit data to Microsoft, including metadata contained in this file. So for now, I will go ahead and say share the feedback and then I will click on submit. So it is giving me another pop-up just to make sure that I'm sure that I want to submit this for Microsoft to review it. I'm going to say OK. So once the submission is done, it's going to tell you your submission has been submitted to Microsoft for analysis. We will get back to you with the result as soon as your submission has been analyzed. And then I'm going to say done and refresh this here. See, now there is a submission name, submission ID, submitted by whom, date submitted, and the reason for submitting is it's because it's clean but it has been identified as malicious. And then when I click on this, so this is an example of submitting a file hash. If I scroll down, it says this submission is being reviewed. It is also giving us recommended steps, add indicators, go hunt, and all the other details. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So that is how you submit a file or a file hash. Now let's try the same thing for emails. So I'm going to again say submit to Microsoft for analysis. Email submission type, email URL, email attachment. I'm going to go with email. Then it will ask you for network message ID or to upload the email file. Network message ID is a GUID that is in the header of the message. It is available as this value, Exchange Organization Network Message ID. Or if you're looking at a quarantined message, it's going to appear as this, Filtering Correlation ID. Let's go back to the Defender portal. You can provide that or you can upload the file. So there are two options how you can upload the details. So then there is an option to choose at least one recipient who had this issue. If you hover over this icon, it tells you that providing a single recipient is recommended. We will assess their assigned policies to help determine why this happened. And then there are options saying, why are you submitting this message to Microsoft? Because it is clean, it appears clean. So you can say, I confirm that it is clean, that you're sure that it is clean. You're doubtful, but it appears clean, it appears suspicious, or you confirm that it is a threat. And then if you click on next, and you can submit the entire message. And then there is Teams message. The only way to submit a Teams message to Microsoft for analysis is to submit a user reported Teams message. So a user reported Teams message will come under user reported tab, and from here you can submit it. So if you I don't have any messages here, but if you select that message, the submit to Microsoft for analysis button will not be grayed out, and you can select it, select the drop box and say why you're submitting it. Is it clean? Is it a fish? Is it malicious? You can do that here. And then there is email attachments. If I click on submit to Microsoft for analysis, email attachment, you can browse that file. And then again, the same options that you will get. Confirm it's clean, appears suspicious, or confirm it's a threat. I'm going to close this. And then you can also submit URLs. If you click on submit to Microsoft for analysis and then say select the submission type, the URL, maybe I'll give it as example.com. I confirmed it is clean, it appears clean. If I submit it. Okay, I'm gonna close this as well. And then something that we didn't discuss is user reported tab. Say that in your organization, all the employees, you can configure saying when they get a message email in Outlook, they can report it as fish, junk, and also the Teams messages when they submit it so will appear here. And once it comes here, you can analyze it and then you can select that message and hit submit to Microsoft for analysis. For user reported, there are settings that you need to set. So if you see here, it says user reported settings. Let me go to that. You land here, email and collaborations. And then if you scroll down, it says monitor reported messages in Outlook. So if you click on report built-in report button, it will give you an option saying phishing, junk and not junk for the users, and you can select that. And when a user reports an email as phishing, junk or not junk, what should you do? Ask the user to confirm before reporting. You will get another pop-up message to confirm if you really want to submit it, and also show a success message after the message is reported. You can also customize these messages. And then there is use a non-Microsoft add-in button. You can also use a third-party add-in button to report messages. Then if you scroll down, it says Microsoft Teams can also be reported. Messages in Microsoft Teams can also be reported by the users. And then there is an option for reported message destination. Send reported messages to, and there are options Microsoft only, my reporting mailbox only, or Microsoft and my reporting mailbox. This is more of a Microsoft Defender for Office topic, but because we are here, I just wanted to cover it. And then there is an option to add an Exchange online mailbox to send reported messages to. You can add your mailbox here, or you can send it only to Microsoft. And then you can save. And then if I go back to this user reported tab, all the messages that are reported by the users will come here, and then the admin can again analyze it and send it to Microsoft, or use this option saying mark as and notify, where you can say no threats found, phishing, spam. You can take direct actions as well. The admins can take direct actions too. So this is how you do it from the submissions page. If you go now to the alerts and incidents page and then to alerts, you can submit it from here as well. So this is an example alert. I'm going to click on this. You see these three dots. If you click on those three dots, you can see that submit items to Microsoft for review. Whatever items are there in this alert, you can directly submit it. So again, I'm going to get the hash value or file option. It's easy for me to go with the file hash value. I'm going to give the hash value. This is the same page, okay? But there is an other option which says include alert story. So this says this will attach a JSON file that will help our experts further investigate your submission. And then you click on submit. I'm going to close this. And there is another place where you can report it as well. If you go to the main menu and scroll down, go to email and collaboration. Click on review. Here you have quarantined emails and restricted entities. Like you can see, restricted entities are those entities which have been blocked for sending too many messages marked as spam or bulk. And there is quarantine. Here you can review quarantine messages and decide whether you want to release them to one or more of the intended recipients. Now I'm going to click on this quarantine. I don't have any quarantine messages here, but if you do, see these three buttons, you can click on more actions and click on more again. See this submit for review. You can submit for review from here as well. So these are the ways that you can do it from the Defender portal, but there is also another way. I'm going to delete this. If you go to this URL, I'm going to link it in the description box. You can directly do it. So I'm going to copy this. So this is the submission file. Submit a file for malware analysis. You can submit as home customer, enterprise customer. I'm going to select this as home customer for now. It will ask me to sign in. And then if you see here, it says submission is from me. Select the Microsoft product used to scan the file. You can select it from here. Microsoft Antivirus, Smart Screen Defender, Smart App Control. I'm going to go with antivirus. The company name. Do you have a Microsoft support case number? If you have created a ticket with Microsoft, then you can add that as well here. And then select the file from here. Once it is submitted, Microsoft will investigate it, and if they determine that the sample file is malicious, they will take corrective actions to prevent the malware from going undetected. And then if you scroll down, it also says, what do you believe this file is? Malware or malicious, incorrectly detected as malware. So you can do it either way, false positives and false negatives. Is it a potentially unwanted application, incorrectly detected as potentially unwanted application? You can provide your notes and then hit continue. So these are some of the ways how you can submit files, email messages, Teams messages, URLs, and email attachments for further analysis by Microsoft so that they can change their detection algorithms.
So that's it for part 1, guys. If you like today's video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share our videos. That helps us a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon in part 2 of this series. Bye-bye.